Board members are present. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the regular school board meeting agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Lynn.
Do I know calendar change? Is it on there?
Okay. Yes, it is.
Okay. Just for the public's.
Right.
Public's.
Okay. So, motion by Lynn, second by Jason. There was an addition of calendar change, but it is included as part of the agenda. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's approved. Comments and requests from visitors? I don't see any hands raised, so we will move on to consent agenda, or anybody that's not on the agenda, I suppose. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Lynn.
Second.
Second by Jason. Is there any discussion, or does anybody want to pull something? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. First order of business is calendar change.
Yeah, so with these snow days that have been happening to us as police, we need to, I guess I'm asking if the board would consider altering the calendar with the addition of April 22nd and April 18th now being student contact days. April 17th is the day where we would have the early out going into that Thursday, Friday, Monday, no students. So with having students on the 18th, it doesn't make sense to have a 3-hour early out on Wednesday and then come back for a full day on Thursday for students. Typically, that early out is the last student day. So we would just be flipping that full day to be the Wednesday, the 17th, and then the early out Thursday. We are talking for the 18-19 this school year. Oops. So when if the board chooses to make this motion, we would just put 18-19 school year.
Maybe just a little bit of an oversight that we had when we put the calendar together last year.
We didn't know we'd need to use a day.
2 days.
2 days.
Yeah, this is an oversight as much as this is just.
Is that something that we could just put into policy or process? Because I think that's just a logical.
I actually had a number of questions over the weekend asking if we were please not going to have a half day on Wednesday and come back to school on Thursday.
So once the board makes a motion and votes on this, then I will know exactly what I'll be sending out to parents tomorrow, what's going to go in the record for the week, and then what I will communicate with the St. Cloud Times, who's running a story, and all the students that are on the schools in the areas that are adjusting as we speak. So
you need the motion yet?
I need the motion to
Second.
adjust the calendar.
Okay. So motion by Lynn, second by Sunny to adjust the calendar to have a full day and then a half day. Instead of the reverse. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The calendar change is approved. Long-term facility maintenance bonding. Ellers isn't here. I mean, the roads just got really bad within the last hour, I think. So they're probably just running a little bit late because of the roads, I'm guessing. But let's do upcoming events, and then we can recess. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay. Upcoming events on our calendar. Pretty straightforward. Are there anything that you guys want to point out, or? questions or conflicts?
I think the only thing I had was on the 14th for the chamber event. I have a work
Okay.
commitment that day.
Okay.
I had a question about the Facilities and Grounds Committee. Was that one that Brent was going to look at different times, different days, now that the committee is different, instead of it being 1:30 in the afternoon?
He did send out a email to everybody responding. I don't know if he's collated on that or on that yet, but
So on February 19th, it's at 1:30?
No, I don't think so. He emailed me, I was out of town, but emailed me, well, he emailed the whole committee and then he emailed just me specifically about changing things. So maybe my schedule was the one that was the hiccup. So I'll talk to.
Did you email him? Did you email him?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk to Brent tomorrow and then clarify that with our calendar, and then we'll just get an email sent out. But I'm guessing that it's going to move from the 19th because that was always the assumption.
Okay.
But a new one hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay.
So you're not like missing anything.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if I need to be, I don't know if I can be available at 1:30
Okay.
on the 19th, but.
Okay. I'll touch base with Brent and then
Okay.
go from there. And then I think I can make is the 14th, is it Thursday this year?
I have a perpetual third Thursday of every month
Okay.
leadership conference
Okay.
that I go to. So.
I'm pretty sure I can make that meeting.
Okay.
So I can sub in for you.
Okay.
And then I
Great.
think Shannon and I swapped April and May
Okay.
chamber, Cold Spring Chamber, so Shannon, you're going on the 11th for me.
Mhm.
So that just needs to have Shannon's
Oh, just
updated.
respective.
Yeah, and we just
If-
decided that, so we didn't pass that along to
Okay.
Barb or anybody yet.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, well, I'll just call a recess then, and we'll resume back when Ellers gets here. Perfect. Okay. Reopening, we had just recessed. Because you guys came and listen to our work session stuff, but welcome. And if you guys want to introduce yourselves, and we can go ahead and get started.
Sure, I'm Jody from Ellers, and I've been at Ellers about 9 years, and before that worked at a suburban school district for about 15 years, and prior to that worked on audits of school districts. I've kind of been in school districts my whole life. I've seen some of you, I think, at MSBA, but I don't know that I've ever been here at a meeting. Generally, Greg Crow, I think, has been the one coming to meetings, so.
Yeah, and I'm Matthew Hammer. I'm actually the newest municipal advisor for Ellers. I started in December, and I'm coming from Fridley Public Schools, where I've been for about 10 years as their finance manager.
Well, welcome. We're glad you guys made it safely, and go ahead and.
Sounds good. So we're going to talk about financing some deferred maintenance projects that you guys have identified. And I think we can switch to, so there's a limited number of financing tools that you can use for capital projects. The two that we'll talk about tonight are long-term facilities maintenance revenue, which is a relatively new program for districts like Rocori, and has been used now for districts many districts have issued bonds under this program since it's been phasing in now over the last few years. And the other one that we'll talk about is abatement bonds. So long-term facilities maintenance revenue have more flexibility. You can't use it for just anything, but a lot more flexibility than abatement bonds. Abatement bonds, the Minnesota Department of Education will only allow school districts to use it for parking lot projects. But it is becoming a more common tool for school districts to use abatement bonds for parking lot projects, because even with long-term facilities maintenance revenue, you guys generally have more needs than the available revenue. So it just provides a little bit, another tool for you to use to address some of those projects. So in terms of your revenue that you get for long-term facilities maintenance revenue, there is a formula that's now fully phased in. It was phased in over a 3-year period, so you're now getting the full $380 per pupil. And you qualify for the full amount if your average building age is over 35 years, which it is for Rocori. So you're getting the full amount of the revenue. The nice thing about this revenue is that you get quite a bit of state aid. Not all districts get this amount of state aid, so it depends upon the makeup of your tax base, but you do qualify for about 36%. So any projects that you do within this program are financed 36% by the state. So that's nice and helpful for your local taxpayers. The types of costs that you can use your long-term facilities maintenance revenue for are relatively flexible, as I mentioned. So deferred maintenance projects, so lots of the things that you would spend money on at your own home, like flooring or lighting or ceilings or window replacement, all those kinds of things are eligible within this program. Accessibility, health and safety projects. In fact, the health and safety program is rolled into this program. You no longer get separate health and safety funding. So they're expecting you to use your LTFM money for your health and safety costs. You can get additional revenue for health and safety projects over $100,000 per site. That additional revenue is above the per pupil amount, but you don't get any state aid on that. So if you do identify projects in those categories, they are paid for entirely by your local taxpayers. You don't get that nice 36% state aid on it. In terms of the way that you can finance your projects, the pay-as-you-go method is what you've been doing. So you get the money and you use it for projects each year ongoing. You just pay for them as you do them. So generally that's used for smaller projects or shorter useful life. So if you identify some larger dollar projects that are going to have a longer useful life and you want to get that money up front for the project, that's when you would issue bonds for the projects. And you guys do have a few projects that fit that criteria. So again, pretty common now for districts to be issuing bonds for their larger projects that they're identifying within their LTFM program. You can also save up money in your LTFM if you have extra money available. Most districts had so much pent-up demand for these type of projects that nobody's really accumulating a lot of money in their LTFM program, but should you want to save it up over time to use it for a big project, you certainly could do that. Most districts do a combination because the program allows you lots of flexibility, so you might as well take advantage of the flexibility. So using some of your money pay as you go for your smaller projects, and then using bonds to tackle some of those larger projects makes a lot of sense. So the projects that you have identified are roofing, parking lots, and HVAC projects. And all of those are available to you within this program. The advantages to bonding for the program is that anytime you issue facilities maintenance bonds, they're eligible for the aid credit. So when you're paying for your projects on a pay-as-you-go basis, you're not issuing bonds, so you don't get the aid credit on the bond issue. So just like all of your other bond issues, with the exception of OPEB, they are eligible for the aid credit, and your aid property owners would have seen that reduction in their taxes starting with taxes payable in 2018. It does help you, as I mentioned, with larger upfront funding and projects that have a longer useful life. And right now we have really nice, low, attractive rates on general obligation bonds. There's been a lot of demand in the marketplace for municipal bonds, and that's been driving the interest rates down. So that's been nice. In fact, the interest rates most times are lower than what the construction inflationary costs are over time. So it generally makes sense if you've got some larger projects to go ahead and issue the bonds to get those projects done. And lots of times there's efficiencies if you're doing some bigger projects anyway at once, rather than maybe doing part of your roof at a time. That's generally not as efficient in terms of the process. So we put together a schedule. Beth told us that you have projects that would be around the amount of $4.5 million. And we generally have issued the facilities maintenance bonds over a 15-year period of time. It can be a little bit longer, it can be shorter, so we've got a range of terms that we've used on facilities maintenance bonds, but 15 I think has been the most common. And you just don't want the term to exceed the useful life of whatever projects you're doing, and your bond attorney will want to make sure that that's the case also. So we've estimated an average interest rate of 3.65% over this term, and you can see that should you finance all of these projects at $4.5 million through long-term facilities maintenance bonds, you'd use about 47% of your revenue over that period of time. So the way that this schedule is laid out, you can see the taxes payable year, the fiscal year, the total amount of LTFM revenue, and that's the dollar amount that we showed you early on, and then the levy and aid mix, and again, you're getting almost 40% of it from the state. And then the schedule that we have laid out there shows you if you commit to that level of debt payments, how much you would have remaining still for your ongoing pay-as-you-go type projects. So you'd still have roughly $450,000 available each year to take care of your other projects outside of these larger projects. Questions so far? That's about halfway through, so I'm going to turn it over to Matthew to go on to the second scenario where we would do a combination of long-term facilities maintenance bonds and abatement bonds for the parking lot projects. So any questions so far on the information?
Do you have a question? Oh, okay.
I need to go get some water if I
Oh,
can coffee.
yeah, no problem.
So if I walk out, it's not letting.
Okay. It's not, yeah,
It's
go
not
ahead.
you.
So as Jody was talking, parking lots are a piece that can be funded through your long-term facilities plan. But you doing a combination look where we use a portion of your LTFM plan and then combining it with an abatement bond issue actually allows us to free up about $70,000 in resources annually, we're estimating, and only use up about 38% of your, almost just shy of 39% of your LTFM revenue. And as we all know, there's been pent-up demand with the long-term facility projects and deferred maintenance projects around the state with all the deferred maintenance requirements and needs that districts have. So this is a good way of taking a different look and seeing how we can hopefully maximize, get you to the 4.5 million, but also leave some extra money there for doing other projects as a pay-as-you-go basis. So when we take a look at this, one of the big benefits of issuing bonds through the long-term facility program is this A credit. And as you can see on your agricultural land, they're actually going to see a decrease with the same levy authority. So when you issue bonds through the long-term facility program, the A credit applies, which is 40% on your egg property. And so those egg owners are actually going to see a small decrease in their taxes when we issue bonds against the long-term facility program.
And same tax impact then for everybody else, because you're levying in this program no matter what, whether you direct it to bond payments or whether you direct it to pay-as-you-go projects, doesn't matter for the rest of your taxpayers, but it does give this additional advantage to your agricultural taxpayers.
So when we look at abatement bonds, and adding this on, no order approval, there is a public hearing that is required. Again, like Jody said, the only use that the state of Minnesota or Department of Education allows for school districts to use this on is parking lots. And it's becoming a lot more common. I know at Fridley when I was there, we leveraged this program as part of our long-term plan. We combined it with our referendum as well as our long-term facilities program to give us some additional resources with parking lots, because they can be big dollar amounts that that can eat away at your long-term facility revenues. They're generally limited to 15 years. There is a review and comment if you're over 2. In this case, we're not anticipating being over 2 million, so that requirement would not be in effect, and the district levies these payments each year. So as we take a look at debt structure for principal and interest payments, these are similar assumptions we're using with the other long-term facility maintenance bonds. $800,000 at 3.65% average interest rate, and as you see on the bottom, that's a look at what we're anticipating for total cost of issuing this debt. Now here, this is a look at that tax impact. One thing we want to point out, if you go back a few slides, on the egg owners, on their homestead and non-homestead, they're getting the credit, and that credit for the facility maintenance program is actually greater than this tax impact that they're going to see here. So the savings when you issue the facilities maintenance bonds for the egg owners is actually going to be greater than what they'll see as a tax increase for this abatement bond, for the abatement bonds. This is just to look at your existing debt and capital levies, the way they, or capital projects levy, the way it sits today. As you can see, there is a small step down from 18 to 19, so when we would issue the abatement bonds, the overall, it's really a short-term tax impact out of the chute, because in the future years, the impact of those abatement bonds is going to be less than what they're seeing today on the overall debt structure. So when we look at a projected timeline, March 11th would be when we would call for the abatement hearing, because there is an abatement hearing required for issuing abatement bonds.
Most times nobody shows up. But
Yeah. April 8th, there would be a abatement hearing, authorization for property tax abatement, and then authorizing resolution of intent to issue bonds and publish notice for your facilities maintenance bonds. So we'd be doing things simultaneously with your abatement and your facilities bonds over the next few months. May 20th would be the sale, and then we would hope to have funds in hand by the early June underneath our assumptions here.
And that's who you're used to seeing, Greg, at the top of the pyramid. He was teasing us for putting him at the top of the
Yeah,
pyramid.
he actually said, we didn't have him on there at first. He goes, you gotta put me back on, so we made sure he was up front and center.
His nice smiling face. He's home, it's his wife's birthday today, so that's why you got stuck with the two of us.
And we made it.
Yeah,
Make
barely.
it time.
So, all right, so this is, so we've talked about this at our previous board meeting, but there's a couple of options for us to pursue as a board. And the abatement is kind of a piece that we've considered because of the benefits of doing an abatement. But, do you guys have questions? Or anything you want to point out?
My only question is, because we get facility and maintenance money on a per pupil basis, if our per pupil count goes down, is that going to affect us in making payments in the future?
It does, but again, you have, between the two options, you have either 450 or 530,000 roughly of funds remaining for additional projects, so you still have quite a bit of revenue that you're not committing to the debt service payments. But yes, absolutely, as your enrollment fluctuates, so does your revenue in this program.
And that's something we're always hedging against.
So, and this is just for a little bit more historical context, but the funds for the available funds to school districts, when I joined the board, 6 years ago, for building maintenance was really, really, really low. And so school districts were having to make decisions about, textbooks versus leaking roofs and all. It was really a tough situation. And so we really pushed hard at the state level to increase the funding to keep our buildings open, or, to keep our buildings maintained properly. And so there's kind of been like this pressure, this back pressure for all of these projects because they weren't being done as they should have always been done, kind of in a timely, well-planned, structured way. And so the need for roofs and we've been doing a lot of patching and stuff, and this is a statewide issue, and so I think that there's just like a lot of back pressure to get some of this stuff done. Which is why the conversation is kind of happening now, as opposed to, in a couple of years or a couple of years ago. And when was the first year that we were fully funded for long-term facility maintenance?
17, 18.
Okay, so this is like kind of new money to districts to be fully funded.
We used to only go to the largest districts, was it 10 or?
25. There are about 25 districts that had a similar program in place. They still are grandfathered in under their old program, and they have unlimited authority to issue bonds and access revenue. So they're not limited on a per pupil basis. They, if you go to some of the districts that have had this money in place, and I worked at one of them for a long time, and their facilities have been kept in really great condition, and, this was a step in the right direction for the legislature to level a playing field for the rest of the school districts in the state, but you're still not at their same level, so.
One other thing for this fall, when we do our levy, if it comes back as a really big increase and we don't like the tax impact, we can under levy the pay-as-you-go part for the rest of the long-term facilities maintenance.
So if
we
we
just
do-
have we have another option if we don't want to end up, we can kind of push it back to what it would have been without the abatement bond.
Okay. Does that have any effect on, like, really, because I know if you call for a bond, is that the proper terminology? You call for a bond and then you say, you know what, we changed our mind, looks bad.
You would probably, you would move forward with the bond process, I think, in the situation you're
Under
speaking of.
levying isn't the same, doesn't have the same effect.
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd commit to the bond you'd commit to the bond issues and move forward with that process, and you'd be committed there, but you could under levy in that remaining LTFM revenue.
So you're just borrowing a little bit less than you originally.
So you'd be accessing less revenue, you'd be able to do less pay-as-you-go projects.
Yeah,
So we would say we're doing
essentially.
one less roof, but, or whatever,
We keep all those
Or the
projects
roofs.
on. It would be all the little
small.
I don't want to say piddly, but that's what they look like
But
compared
let's
to
say-
these big
Let's say we
projects.
wanted to
all
upgrade
around.
all of the water closets or whatever, you know, that might be a pay-as-you-go that we wouldn't do in order to make sure that the levy was
Okay.
not burdening to our taxpayers.
So we're not backed into a corner at this point, okay.
I know what the presentation was sort of saying roofing parking lots, HVAC, but I just didn't know if it was clear to the people, you know, what specific projects, you know, would that be best presented by Beth or you, or
I
just?
think we would present that once we're
Oh,
fully
if we're
committed
gonna-
to this, we would
okay.
then be very upfront with what the projects are.
Okay.
Our
okay.
Buildings and Grounds Committee has reviewed
Okay.
the actual.
So if they've been following
projects.
building and grounds, then it would have been in that, so, okay. Okay.
And it's, the conversation at the Buildings and Grounds Committee level is, we're using our 10-year long-term facilities maintenance plan. So we're not like inventing new projects, we're just pulling those projects that were out
Just seems
4,
like they're being
5, 6 years.
fast-tracked.
Yeah, because,
And like
They need to
she
be
alluded
done.
to, it makes sense if you can pay a lower interest rate than what the inflationary rate is.
Right.
Plus, we're getting savings for homestead, or
Ag
agriculture,
property.
not homestead, agriculture properties. You know, it's really a win-win situation, and it doesn't really, you know,
Plus, on top of it, you probably save money if you're doing a large roofing project versus doing a bunch of small ones, because your
Yeah.
contractor's gonna give you a better deal on.
so this is a huge opportunity for us that I think we definitely need to pursue, in my opinion, given all of the potential benefits that, you know, are right in front of us, so.
Yeah, we have districts like Big Lake, they're on their third facilities maintenance bond issue already, because they just have so many projects to tackle. So they did one right out of the chute, we went before the program was even fully phased in, and we just did their third one for them. So, it's not uncommon for districts to be issuing bonds in this program, and, you know, because of the advantages that you just articulated, that is exactly why more and more districts have been moving forward with them.
are there any other questions while we have Ehlers here? Questions on the process?
Yeah, there's noticing requirements as part of each program, so we would make sure that those would be presented to you as part of the resolutions to move forward with the abatement and the bond issues, so that you'd see what would be in the paper. Relatively brief notices, but letting people know that you're moving forward with bond issues in these programs.
And then this is, we're not looking for a vote.
It's not a vote tonight.
It's just consensus to move forward.
Correct.
So I'm seeing consensus from the board that we should move forward. So, all right, well, I think that's it. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Again, apologize for our.
We're glad you
Drive
made it
safe.
safely and
But
drive
yeah,
safe
we'll-
home.
We'll go even slower on my road here. But yes.
Well, we really
Yeah.
appreciate it, and,
Yes.
you know, this is a timely process for us, and so we just appreciate that you made it through despite the weather, so.
Yes, if you think of any questions after the fact, just funnel them through and we'll get back to you with answers. And we can certainly provide some information for an abatement hearing if that's something that you need some help with, you know, should you move into that piece of it. So we're happy to provide whatever information and assistance you need moving forward.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we need a motion to close this meeting?
Yep, so now so we've, yeah, so is there a
I-
motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion
Uh,
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn our regular meeting by Sunny, second by Jason. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Our regular board meeting is adjourned.